Good morning, Shabbat Shalom, and greetings to the 12 tribes of the children of Israel who, according to Bible prophecy, have been scattered into the four corners of the earth through slavery and oppression because of the sins of our fathers in worshiping other gods, but who are now returning to the God of our fathers, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name is Yahweh. And we are returning to him now, according to Bible prophecy, in the awakening. Greetings. Greetings also to those that are joined with the scattered nation in the awakening, although they are not the bloodline, as it were, grafted in strangers, while olive trees grafted into the olive tree of the nation of Israel. Greetings. Blessings upon those that are working in the healthcare field, trying to save lives. Blessings upon those that pick up garbage for us to keep our places clean. Blessings upon those that make deliveries for our convenience. Double blessings on those trying to deliver, boys and girls, men and women and children and babies and toddlers and teenagers and even grown adults from sex slavery, from child molestation and pedophilia, from child prostitution that turns into adult prostitution and adult videos of pornography and child pornography and human trafficking. Blessings upon those that are trying to deliver the innocents that are stuck in these situations. Curses upon those that put the people, these innocents, in these situations and support these disgusting and abominable industries. Finally, blessings upon the homeless, 600,000 men, women, and children with veterans and families in the United States alone, and numbers are growing. Millions around the world in many countries, including the Philippines, including Mexico, including places like Afghanistan and Haiti, where they don't even know where their next meal is coming from, and they don't have a roof over their head. Blessings upon these poor ones, for theirs is the kingdom, and blessings upon those that are trying to help. Finally, greetings to those in the chat, Brother Williams, Brother Mark, Stepbrother Stephen, Sister Wade, Sister Heavenly Garden, Isha, Brother David, in the house of Harriet, and my wife, JJ. Blessings upon all of you all, and greetings to all of you all. We have been studying the prophecies of Jeremiah and learning a great deal, praise the Most High Yahweh, because of his word. Not only are we learning in terms of understanding of the Most High, but more importantly, or just as important, I should say, is being prepared for what's coming. Being prepared for what's coming and having an understanding of what's here. This is part of the awakening. For the Hebrew, this is very important because the awakening that we are now experiencing is awakening us to where we really come from. Not only that, it's awakening us to how we got here in 2021. Not only that, it's awakening us to what's just ahead of us. And brethren, to understand where you come from, how you got here, and where you're going is of vital importance, particularly when we are the Hebrews, especially those of us scattered into the developed nations through slavery. We are the only people on planet Earth that have no idea where we came from, have no understanding of why we are how we are now, and really don't know what's going forward. But the awakening of the Most High shows us clearly all of these things. Our enemies would have us remain ignorant. They would have us believe lies and man's philosophies. But this word right here, please read it. It tells you everything you need to know about yourself if you're a Hebrew. And if you're interested in divine truth, not man-made truth, man-made philosophy, but divine truth, eternal truth, Any person, it's in here. It's in here. But especially for those of the bloodline of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who have been brought captive to various lands in chains and slavery, who have been suffering more than any other people in terms of disease, in terms of sickness, in terms of oppression, in terms of economic poverty, in terms of unfairness, in terms of lack of education, in terms of having a system that's specifically designed to destroy you. We especially rejoice at this knowledge. This is all made possible through the Father's appointed means, the Messiah, who is the light given to us from the Father to open our eyes and bring us out of darkness and into his marvelous light. This continues today as we're studying Jeremiah chapter 42 and 43. Very important subject today. Let me start off like this. We always know the prayer that the Messiah taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. We know this prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. It goes on, but we want to stop there. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Messiah taught us the prayer and then demonstrated to us its action when he was going to be crucified, when he was going to be sacrificed for the sins of Israel, when he was going to be sacrificed and made to become sin for us, though he knew no sin, that we might be made righteousness in him. In Matthew chapter 26, the night he was betrayed by Judas, knowing that he was going to be betrayed, they left the upper room and they went to the garden, a garden called Gethsemane, which apparently the Bible tells us is a place that he liked to go and pray. He took his disciples with him. And he had Peter, James, and John, the three that seemed to be closest to him, come with him as he went to a special place within the garden to pray. And let's take it up there in Matthew chapter 26, beginning at verse 36. Then cometh Yahushua with them unto a place called Gethsemane, and said unto his disciples, sit ye here while I go and pray yonder. And he took with him Kapha, or Peter, and the two sons of Zebedee, and began to be sorrowful and very heavy. Then saith he unto them, my soul is exceeding sorrowful, even unto death. Tarry ye here and watch with me. And he went a little farther and fell on his face and prayed, saying, watch his prayer, O my Father, if it be possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, not as I will, but as thou wilt. So at that moment, Messiah was going to be the sacrifice for sin. And let me just try in my human frailty, and I mean that seriously and literally, to explain a little bit about that situation in my human frailty. Messiah was not concerned with the pain he was going to have inflicted upon him by the Hebrews and later the Romans. That was not what he was worried about. He was not even concerned with dying. He was not afraid to die. No. Messiah was very concerned to death about being separated from the Father. As we study Gospels, especially when you look at the Gospel of John, you begin to understand that the Father's relationship with Messiah has no beginning. Oh, he became the only begotten son when he was born of a woman. But when you read the whole scripture, you will understand that he existed before he was born of the woman, so that he was with the Father from eternity, never ever having been separated from him. But for the sake of us, to save us, he was going to suffer separation from his Father. This is what was crushing him. And if you ever, I can relate, even we could relate a little bit like this. Have you ever been close to somebody, like really close, whether it be a parent, a relative, a spouse? You've been really close, so tight. And then for whatever reason, maybe it's death, maybe it's just whatever other circumstance, you're separated from that individual. When you think about that, it hurts. If you've ever experienced it, having somebody you were really close with, and then you separated from them. I had an uncle, and my uncle from Jamaica, his wife and him were married for, I think, more than 60 years. They were married more than 60 years. And he died. He had been in bad health for many years, my uncle. Had many operations. His wife hadn't suffered as much as he had in terms of health, but within months of him dying, she died. Okay, she got sick and she died. They had been together so long. They were like one. Never been apart for more than 60 years. And so that is just a tip of the iceberg when you're dealing with Messiah, with the Father, who goes back through the ceaseless ages of history from the beginning. And at this moment was going to be separated. Now, why the separation? Messiah was going to become sin. What does that mean? Upon him was going to be placed all the sins of Israel. And in that, Father was rejecting his son because Father rejects sin. So he was going to be separated from his Father, who he had never been separated from, ever. It was the Father's will to save his people, why he allowed this to happen. And so Messiah, of course, going with the Father's will. And we see examples of this in the scriptures. For example, when Abraham took Isaac, his son, to Mount Moriah and was told to sacrifice him, you never see in that detail Isaac struggling to stop his father from placing him on the altar and tying him down. He allowed it. It was his Father's will, and so he was going to allow himself to become a sin offering. That's the example, and that's why Messiah said to the scribes and Pharisees, Abraham rejoiced to see my day. And when he saw it, he was glad, because after that, the call came from the Father in heaven. Now I know you love me, seeing that you have not withheld your son, your only son. He kept saying that multiple times, your only son from me. Because Father was going to do the same thing for Abraham's children. And this is why he prayed this prayer. I want this cup to pass from me. At that moment, he's like, I don't think I can deal with this. I don't think I can be separated from you, Father, not even for a moment. But he finished it by saying, not as I will, but as thou wilt, which is what he taught us. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Why do I bring that up? Because, brethren, it is a good thing for you and I to bring our wants, our desires, our wishes, and our dreams to our Father. It is nothing wrong with that. It's actually very commendable that we should bring all of our plans, our wants, our dreams, our desires, our plans to the Father. In the name of the Messiah, we should do that. But if we are the servants of the Father, we must always be prepared to accept his will with our request. We must always be prepared to accept what his will is. So I'll give you a personal example. I actually prayed when I decided it was 19. I remember it was 1994. I was struggling in my job. I had found out that all of my peers, my Caucasian peers, had got promoted and raised above me, though I worked just as hard and had more experience than them. I was so angry and mad that I was going to quit right there. And I had my wife, and at that time, 4 children, and we were struggling to pay our mortgage and our bills. My wife was home with the children. But I was so up to here angry and fed up with this system. I decided at that time, I'm going to work for myself. I had no experience being an entrepreneur, but I was so mad, it didn't matter. And I told my wife about it, and she was very scared, as she should have been. And I said to her, give me 5 years. We may lose everything, but I'm going to make it back way more than that. I didn't know what I was talking about. I just felt like I was just so mad. I was so motivated. And I decided in my carnal mind, I was going to be a billionaire. I was going to do whatever it took to be a billionaire. Not a millionaire, a billionaire. And I actually prayed. I would pray and come to the Father, and I would say, I want to be a billionaire. I need you to guide me to be a billionaire. I don't care what I have to do. I don't care what I have to sacrifice. I don't care what it is. I need you to show me how to be a billionaire. He obviously said no. He has obviously said no. But at the time, I was not joking. I was deadly serious. And I did. I went and suffered and sacrificed and did whatever it took. And then I found myself cutting corners. I found myself cheating people. I found myself taking advantage whenever I could. I found myself doing things that I didn't intend to do when I first made the decision that I wanted to be a billionaire. But everything I did was things that I had seen other rich people do to get where they got. Because the saying goes, if you want to get what you want, you got to see other people that got what you got. And how did they get there? That was the logic that the world taught me. So I said, well, this is how so-and-so did it. This is how so-and-so did it. Let me do it. In fact, I once had, before that, a few years before, I had a desire to be a millionaire. Now, this time I hadn't prayed about it, nor had I talked to my wife about it, but my wife knew it. And I wanted to work on Wall Street. This was before this. I wanted to work on Wall Street. In fact, I went to a Baruch College in New York City. And at that time, I don't know what it is now, but at that time it was a business college. It was mostly Ashkenazi. And everybody was trying to get to Wall Street. This was the 80s. And so when I graduated, the semester I was interviewing with stockbrokers. And I talked to this one guy, and he brought me in the office. And I was caught up in the black-white scenario. But see, even though that's a tremendous dynamic in all facets of society, when it comes to the really hungry people that is desperate for money, they don't care about your color. They only care about one color. It's green. It took me a while to learn that. When I went into this interview, here was this Caucasian man, and he starts to interview me. And we start talking. He asked a few questions, and one of the questions he asked, he said, "Do you love money?" I said, yeah, of course I love money. And he said, do you love money? I said, yeah, man. What I need to do? He said, listen. He said, this was around 87. He said, I make $380,000 a year. I drive a brand new car every year. He said, I worked 80 hours a week. He said, but I was married and I had 3 kids. I had to leave my wife and my kids. And he said, you know why? Because I want the money. So he asked me again, do you love money? And when he said, leave the wife and kids, I don't know. He must have seen it in my face because he said, you don't want it. You don't really want it. He said, because that's what it's going to take. Now, it was about 10 years later, I realized he was right. That is what it takes. You have to be willing to sacrifice everything. You have to lay everything on the altar of the almighty dollar, which is really Satan's altar. I didn't realize that till 10 years later. And it took me even another 13 years after that, 14 years after that, to downshift from it. I have been when your mind gets focused on something that you want, man, it's strong. The mind's a powerful thing. And it took me another 14 years, really, to downshift from that and to lose the attitude of getting wealthy, to lose the mind thought of what it takes to get wealthy. The Most High had to really knock me down. I lost 2 houses and 7 cars, almost lost my wife and kids, almost. Suffered a lot. But it had to be done for me to lose that. Otherwise, I would have messed up. See, the Most High, when he loves you, he'll stop you from doing what he knows is against his will, if you ask him. And fortunately for me, I have been asking him the whole time. I prayed. I still pray. I would take people's money. I would scam them. I was doing everything to get paid, The answer to their problem was in something I was selling them. Whether it be an annuity, a stock, a bond, whatever it was, it was the answer to their problem. And I made sure they understood that. I knew all kind of hypnotic techniques and everything I was using because I wanted that money. But the Most High, through the time, in his mercy, showed me, really, that's Asatan's kingdom. And he will stop you if you keep pushing after he's trying to stop you. They may come to a point where he'll just let you go. He'll let you go. And he'll let Asatan have you. He does. Because it's your will. And this is the state of the world we're in right now. People want to act like they want to serve the Most High, but they really want their will. They really want their will. We're in a real control freak environment right now, where people are trying to control each other. Corporations control people's lives. Governments are trying to control people against their will. And then trying to convince you it's your will. It's good for you. But it's really man's will. One of the differences between YAH's true chosen people and everybody else is they really want YAH's will. And they will really accept his will, whatever it is, wherever it is, however it is. Why? Because as Messiah taught us, who is the greatest teacher ever, what he taught us is there's no higher position for you and me than to bring glory to the Father. Okay? Satan teaches us glory to the Most High is our glory. It's for us to seek our own glory, for us to be gods. That's not true. The Father's glory is his will in our lives as we allow it. So we can bring him all our desires, our wishes, what we want, and he may grant some of them. He does. He said yes to me a number of times, but he's also said no. And sometimes he says, wait. The human mind is very powerful, man. You have to don't underestimate the power that he has given us here. Our minds are more powerful than any computer. There's no computer that can match what he has given us. And when you decide something, don't underestimate. Don't underestimate. Like I said, it took me, after I realized that I was wrong, it took me another 14 years to overcome that. Seriously. It took me another 14 years to learn to not use hypnosis. It took me another 14 years to learn that my self-worth was not bound up in how much commission I made. It took me a long time. It took me a long time. Because the mind was set. It was focused on that. And I praise Yah that now, I'm definitely not perfect, but my mind is focused on Yah's will. My mind is focused on whatever he wants from me. I did not want to come to Washington, D.C. There's no way. I did not want to come here. But I'm glad I'm here because it's the Father's will. And though we just came from Mexico, we love Mexico. We would like to retire there. But at the end of the day, if it's not the Father's will, we're going to be where he wants us to be, regardless of where it is. See? And that's, for me, that's the closest I've been to the Father, surrendering to his will. Well, be careful what you ask for. And make sure that when you're asking for it, at the end of the time, you're prepared in your heart to receive Yah's will. Let's take a look at 1 Kings chapter 21. You see a lot of human nature and of yourself. And I know I've seen a lot of myself when I look at 1st, 2nd Kings, 1st, 2nd Chronicles, because it shows the history of the kings of Israel and Judah and the history of the kingdoms and how their downfall happened. As we're also looking in Jeremiah, show us that as well. But let's take a look at 1 Kings chapter 21. 1 Kings chapter 21, beginning at verse 1. And it came to pass after these things that Naboth, the Jezreelite, had a vineyard, which was in Jezreel, hard by the palace of Ahab, king of Samaria. And Ahab spake unto Naboth, saying, Give me thy vineyard, that I may have it for a garden of herbs, because it is near my house. And I will give thee for it a better vineyard than it, or if it seem good to thee, I will give thee the worth of it in money. And Naboth said to Ahab, Yahweh forbid it me, that I should give the inheritance of my fathers unto thee. And Ahab came into his house heavy and displeased because of the word which Naboth the Jezreelite had spoken to him. For he had said, I will not give thee the inheritance of my fathers. And he laid him down upon his bed and turned away his face and would eat no bread. In our age, there's a lot of people that have various degrees of this problem that Ahab had. Used to getting his own way and can't handle it when he's not getting his way, when he's not in control. There's a lot of problems like that in our day and age, particularly, unfortunately, with the people that are in control, that have the power, the economic and political and religious power that are enforcing it on people. They have this problem. This comes from Masatan himself. Okay? He had this problem. He couldn't get the vineyard. It wasn't his. He asked the brother to sell it to him. Brother said, no, this is inheritance of my fathers. It's almost like saying this is an heirloom. This is a family thing. I can't give you this. Homie wasn't having that. All right? Let's continue. But he had a wicked woman beside him. 1 Kings chapter 21. But Jezebel, his wife, came to him and said unto him, Why is thy spirit so sad, that thou eatest no bread? And he said unto her, Because I spake unto Naboth the Jezreelite, and said unto him, Give me thy vineyard for money, or else, if it please thee, I will give thee another vineyard for it. And he answered me, I will not give thee my vineyard. And Jezebel, his wife, said unto him, Dost thou now govern the kingdom of Israel? Arise and eat bread, and let thy heart be merry. I will give thee the vineyard of Naboth the Jezreelite. See also, beware, brethren, whether you or somebody on your behalf are trying to please you with everything, to the point of hurting other people to please you. Beware of a husband that's willing to do anything for his wife. That's how we got in this situation, because Adam did that. Beware of a wife that will scheme and do anything to get her will done for you. Remember, it's the Father's will. I'm not talking to y'all who are not interested in giving glory to the Father. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the soul out here that's hearing me, that are interested in giving glory to Yahweh, the Creator. That's the only people I'm talking to right now. Because y'all others, that's not my problem. You're going to get what you got coming. But I'm talking to those souls that are interested in giving glory to the Holy Father, the true Holy Father, the only Holy Father, Yahweh. So Jezebel said, you're the king. You got the power. Don't worry. Eat bread. We're going to take care of this.